The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Speaking Podcast. Today is December 28th, 2019. I'm your host, Ernest. EJ Christian coming to you on a sunny, warm, a bit rainy, cloudy at times. It was actually raining a lot yesterday, Saturday afternoon here in South Florida. Going slow today on the pod. This is probably going to be the last podcast of 2019, actually the last podcast of the decade, because I don't think I'll have time to record again, other than my wrestling podcast I do with my buddies Mike and Joe, which we'll record tomorrow night, but that's not included in this here. So this will probably be the last Earnestly podcast of 2019. I actually wanted to do it. I actually had planned on doing a best of type of thing initially. Then I was like, you know what, I really don't. I don't know if I want to go back and look back at things. I want to move forward. I mean, this was actually obviously a big life-changing decade for me personally. Getting married, of course, having 2 kids, moving forward. I'm approaching 40. I'm really hoping my 40s are better than my 30s. Not saying I didn't enjoy my 30s, because the 30s obviously were life-changing for me in a lot of ways, in more ways than you can imagine. Like as I said, being a dad, being married, and really dealt with responsibility. But there's a lot of things also this decade I wish I had capitalized on too. I feel like with this decade, while I've become a more well-rounded, person as a father and as a husband, I've also felt like I've lost some of what I used to make me. For example, being a musician and playing music a long time, that ended pretty much right in my late 20s. Pretty much ended. Like, I think the last time I played music on a regular basis was probably 2009, 2008. And ever since I got married and I dived into this new life of having children and this next phase, and obviously doing this podcast is probably one of the biggest things personally for me, outside the obvious stuff. This podcast has been the one thing I think really that's given me still some sense of individuality. I'm not here talking negative about being a father and a husband and being a family man, but there are things that are required to live up to that end of the bargain. And there are sacrifices made. On my end, sacrifices made in terms of, there's a lot of people I've come and gone in my life, friends that maybe was close to, I'm not close to anymore, or friends who not even in my life anymore, and that happens naturally. It wasn't that I had planned on that happening. It's the circumstances that make it so, So, I mean, again, this is part of growing up. This is part of life. Things come and go, things change, things move, and something you prioritize what's number one to you, what's important, and you go from there. And if things work out, it works out, So it's obviously the 30s to me was my obviously most life changing of all. Like I said, I wouldn't change it obviously for anything. Although there was a couple of things I would actually probably do differently, I guess, at some degree. But it is what it is. It is what it is. As for Christmas this year was solid. Unfortunately, my wife was on call from her job and was called into work, so we didn't have a chance to spend the entire day together. So I was stuck with doing all the extra stuff with the kids on my own. We started, obviously, as we do every year, we start our day in my home, and then my mother-in-law and my brother-in-law come over to the house every year. We make blintzes, which is pancakes and cottage cheese, and strawberries, which I don't even eat that. That's actually her mom and her. They eat that all the time. I end up making, the normal breakfast, scrambled eggs, bacon, and all that, which we did. We had a guest this year, too, also, as well. I think my mother-in-law's boyfriend came over as well, too. Very nice guy. And we had a good time. We had a good couple hours. We woke up really early. This year we woke up really early too. We woke up really early typically we don't get started the day on Christmas till like maybe 9:30. We were out of bed by 8 o'clock, which is really strange for us because like I said, we weren't prepared. I didn't think we would do that, but we did that. We got up really early in the morning and took care of business. So we had that, our family time here. And then my wife's job, every year they do because they're never really ever closed Even during the holidays, they do get a half day during the holidays. They do her boss, they put together every year we go to a hibachi restaurant. So it's her, she brings plus one, and she brings me with her, obviously, and we go there for a couple hours. We have a hibachi with, coworkers and friends and whatnot. That was a good time. We had a good time doing that. And we spent a couple hours doing that. Got some ice cream as well, too. All covered by her boss, which is great. So that was about 3 hours. That was in the afternoon. So we had the morning with us, the immediate family, then her job for the middle part of that. Then, every year we decide whether to go to my mom's house, which is closer here to home in West Palm Beach, or we go to my aunt's or my dad's, which is all in the same area, which is down south of Miami. We decided to go to Miami because all the family's in town. But then the job called her in to work, so she couldn't make it. So it ended up being me and the two boys going down south, which is not a problem. But you have two young kids, you have to be on your, on your P's and Q's, and the little one is always, looking at things, trying to touch things, and because the house is very active, you have to make sure he's still within arm's reach. Also, he does get fussy at times, so he doesn't want anybody holding him all the time either. So it's one of those things where you have to be on top of it, and if you're not on top of it, you can suffer from that. So we had a good time, obviously. Of course, we watched some of the NBA games there. We had a great time, great food, of course, Caribbean, Trinidad and family, so great food, of course. It was a phenomenal time. And we were there about 5 hours, from 6:30, 7 o'clock to probably about 11 o'clock. We actually stayed late that night. And then, had a good time, came home, and then my wife came from work a couple hours later, and that was that. That was Christmas Day. Active, tiring, and all that. Obviously there was a couple of things that happened, while we were down there, unfortunately, to let's say bad things. My niece was there. She unfortunately hurt her shoulder, wrestling with her brother, and, she fell on her shoulder, and unfortunately she had a broken clavicle. But she's fine now. She's in a sling. No surgery needed. She'd be okay in a couple of weeks. Tough kid, by the way, very tough kid, a warrior, if you will. And then my grandmother actually passed out while we were there around the same time. Luckily, we got the ambulance there. Luckily, she was okay. They didn't even need to take her in. She gained consciousness pretty quickly. Probably because we speculate the fact that she probably had some sort of a alcohol, I guess, a punch creme, we call that. It's a Caribbean drink, with alcohol in it. I guess she had that. Probably not supposed to have that. We had a reaction to it, and she had that, and this wasn't. I guess it didn't hold the right way, and she reacted to that. But luckily, she was able to gain consciousness pretty quickly, and the ambulance came check on her, but other than that, it wasn't needed. She still was able to stay at the party at the house and have a good time with the family. So, yeah, that was two incidents, unfortunately, that happened. Negative, but worked out really in the end. Everything was fine in the end. Nothing was catastrophic, of course. Got home and pretty much passed out within an hour. I was exhausted. I was totally exhausted. The kids, especially when you're by yourself, the kids wear you out, man. They wear you out. So we had a very good Christmas day, to say the least. Very solid, nothing over the top, but pretty solid. As for the Christmas slate for the NBA this year, didn't really watch much of the games. I was able to catch most of the Lakers Clippers. I missed obviously the first game. There was Bucks and it might have been Celtics and Raptors. Missed that game. Missed Celtics and Sixers. I caught the tail end of the Warriors and the Rockets, and then I saw most of Clippers and Lakers, which obviously was the big main event of the entire thing. So again, I didn't watch much of NBA, Christmas NBA this year, and to be honest, I really haven't been invested in Christmas NBA since probably the Big Three, the Miami Heat. Honestly, I think the last time I was really into a Christmas slate was probably 2013, 2014. Not like I don't watch it. It's just I just don't. When I'm with family, even when the games are on, it's really mostly background noise, and that's saying a lot for us because we're actually, myself, my brothers, my cousins, we're all die-hard NBA nuts. Die-hard. Like we have group texts on a daily basis, talk about the Miami Heat, talking about the NBA at large and whatnot, more than any other sport. So it's not like we're not invested, but because we all live separately for the most part. I mean, some of us live here in South Florida, but a lot of us live in North Carolina. Some of us live in Tennessee. Some of us live in even in Trinidad. It is a time for us to invest in each other. So the NBA games become background noise to some degree, But for me, even as I am invested, to some degree, when my family's around and people I haven't seen in a long time, I tend to be with my family and be within that ecosystem, and that's just it. So I missed most of the game. I even missed the last game. I believe it was the Nuggets and who was the last game? Nuggets and somebody. It doesn't really matter. I can't remember it. So, but my big fear for the Lakers, and that's the only game I really watched this weekend. My big fear was realized, and it was realized even before this game. It was realized the previous week prior to the Christmas game, because as you saw, LeBron missed a game, AD missed a game, and therefore, as a result, the Lakers were exposed and lost 3 games in a row. And it happened. This also happened here too, as well. In this game here. Now, both guys did play, but you're seeing the reasons why I said the Clippers were probably. I still have more confidence in the Clippers to close out the year at the top of the Western Conference and probably the NBA Finals well too over the Lakers because of the depth. You lose LeBron or AD, either one of those guys, the roster is exposed. Like people say, oh well, the Lakers have Danny Green and these guys and Jared Dudley. Yeah. Those guys because of their names, because they've been around for a long time, but those guys are older now. Like I'm not saying Danny Green's not a good player, but the depth between the Clippers and Lakers is night and day, And to be honest with you, the Clippers, they've pretty much been in stealth most of the year. Load management, Paul George just got back to the lineup about a month and a half ago. So the Clippers haven't really been full strength all year either, and yet they're only 2 back of the Lakers in the conference. The Lakers have pretty much gone gas on the pedal, and I'm not saying they haven't been good. And certainly when the Lakers are healthy, when AD and LeBron are healthy, that's definitely the best 1-2 punch in the NBA. But that has a lot to rely on when LeBron is 35 years old. AD has never shown the ability to stay healthy throughout an entire NBA season for most of his career. That's a fact, So it comes out. So I was thinking about this too. I was thinking about a couple days ago that the fact that the Lakers, for them to really get to the next level and really compete with the Clippers, they may have to move Kyle Kuzma for more depth. Like Kyle Kuzma is the only, outside LeBron and AD, of course, Kyle Kuzma is the only other tradable asset you have that you can get back probably for more depth. Probably. The problem is Kuzma's also on a rookie deal, so I don't know how far that will go. But he's the only valuable asset you have, not named LeBron and KD. Again, the Clippers' depth makes them the title favorites, in my opinion. I'm not saying it's significant in a way where it's like the Warriors last couple of years, but Kawhi, Paul George, Pat Beverly, Montrezl Harrell, Lou Williams, it goes on and on and on, and guys contribute on a regular basis on that roster. The Lakers, I'm not knocking the Lakers here because they always going to be in the conversation, but watching that game on Wednesday, brought it close to home. Everything they've accomplished so far this year. These two teams have played twice, and both times the Clippers have won those games. Something to think about. That's why I have more confidence in the Clippers moving forward than I do the Lakers when the rubber meets road in the playoffs. So I don't know. The Lakers have a lot of decisions to make moving forward in terms of to get better with their roster because you can't keep relying on a 35-year-old LeBron James to bail you out, or Anthony Davis, who, do we even know he'll be healthy by April? You never know. He's already, missed a couple games this year already. Not saying that it's going to happen the rest of the year, but again, you start seeing him missing games, you start getting worried. Well, can this hold up? Again, that's why I like the Clippers roster overall over the Lakers. Because 1 through 9, 1 through 10, they're much better than 1 and 2. Like, I'll give you best 1-2 punch in the league, LeBron, AD, no doubt about that. But after those two guys, it's a big dip when you're comparing those two versus the Clippers. So, something to think about moving forward for the Lakers. Anyway, last week, the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame released their nominees for the 2020 class for the Hall of Fame. Very interesting names already that came out. What I'm really excited about. Obviously, headline this year, the guys, obviously it's a big list. I saw the list 2 days ago. I think it goes 30 or 40 deep. Actually, I'm not gonna go through all the names, but I'll tell you what the definites who I think will get in. I got 4 definites on this list right now, and probably a few maybes. I'll tell you this much: it's very highly anticipated list. But the definites for me, I think, getting in, obviously, Kobe Bryant is actually probably gonna be the headliner this year of this class. Kobe Bryant retired in 2016. And there's no doubt he doesn't get in. No doubt about that. Him, Tim Duncan also a no doubter as well too. It's funny, like, you know, both guys, like Kobe Bryant will probably the headliner of this whole thing because he's the most popular star, and yet on my all-time list, I have Tim Duncan ranked higher. And quite frankly, a lot of people do actually have Tim Duncan ranked higher than Kobe Bryant on their all-time great list because the personalities are different. Because, you know, Tim Duncan is a very quiet, you know, lunch pail guy who just, you know, does his job and goes home. 5 rings, all that. Whereas Kobe Bryant, obviously is a big celebrity, obviously. You know, still big in Hollywood. Still, you know, obviously a big name. It's strange. I think Kevin Garnett also gets in on this ballot, too. There's no doubt about that. It's funny. Speaking about Kevin Garnett on this podcast on the last episode about a few episodes back, rather, you know, him talk about, you know, LeBron and whatnot, and I gotta go see that movie, by the way, with Garnett, Uncut Gems, Adam Sandler. I've heard it's really, really good. Got some really rave reviews. The one wild card here, I will say, I think he gets it anyway, but this is a wild card because there's been a discussion the last couple of years about whether this guy's a Hall of Famer, or even a first ballot Hall of Famer, for that matter. And I've been saying he was. It's Chris Bosh. Now, I don't think there's any doubt he's a Hall of Fame. I think the big debate we've had over the course of the last couple of years is whether or not he's a first ballot guy. You know, people say, the stats are lower in Miami, but remember, you got to use context there. Chris Bosh was the third wheel, averaging 60 points a game. The third wheel behind LeBron and Wade, 2 high volume scores. You have to kind of sort of use context there and use some more common sense. There's no doubt Chris Bosh gets in the Hall of Fame, but me saying it versus the other argument outside of the, outside of my thoughts, there's a lot more, should I say, pushback on that debate. Me personally, Chris Bosh is not just a Hall of Famer. To me, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He has 2 rings. He made 11, 12 All-Star games. I don't know. I mean, you can't. That's not even debatable at this point. I have debates with people on Twitter about Carmelo Anthony's Hall of Fame induction. You gotta remove your dislike and distaste for people, for a certain person to dictate, whether or not they deserve Hall of Fame or whatnot. That you can't do that. He's definitely a Hall of Famer. There's not a question about that. So, for what I understand, they're gonna narrow it down to how many. I don't know how many they. I don't know the process necessarily. Narrow it down, I think, in February or March, and then I think the final 4 weekend, I'm gonna find out the actual names, the actual finalists, the actual Hall of Fame inductees, and then obviously in August we'll have the ceremony later in the year. So I think Kobe gets in, Tim Duncan gets in, Chris Bosh, Kevin Garnett, some other notable names too on the list. I think Michael Finley was on the list, I think, also too. That's actually an interesting one. A couple of the guys on there. Sean Marion was on the list too. Rui Tom John was on the list as well too. He should get in, I imagine. He has 2 rings as a head coach. I don't see why he doesn't get in. So this would be a very fascinating situation here with the Hall of Fame. I'm hoping. I'm really locked. As much as Kobe and Duncan and Garnett are going to get a lot of the attention, I am more focused on the Chris Bosh aspect of the Hall of Fame and hope he gets in the first ballot this year. Should be great. So as we now approach 2020, and we're going to talk wrestling now real quick. Mainly, I'll talk about AEW and the new promotion that started out this year that went on TV in October, which I've been diehard about. I'm actually planning on seeing one of the shows that's coming to Miami in a few weeks, which I'm looking forward to. Hopefully I can make that. AEW has done a pretty fine job, solid job out the gates before on TV. I'm pretty impressed. AEW is the reason why I came back to watch wrestling after 17 years. But as I've been, watching and I've been looking at the other promotions and looking at the WWE, what they've been doing lately and whatnot, they're not perfect. AEW's not perfect. There's a lot of things they need to improve on in terms of their product and things of that nature. And I got a few things I think they can do to improve their product in 2020. Not a lot of things. Just about 3 or 4 things bring out here. I may even write about this on my blog probably this weekend or something like that. But one of the things AEW needs to do to improve their product is that MJF needs to be on TV a lot more. Maxwell Jacob Friedman needs to be on TV a lot more than he is now. He is by far, if not the biggest heel, certainly the second biggest heel and second best heel in the entire company, and that's behind Chris Jericho. And if you're even in the conversation with Chris Jericho being a heel or being anywhere near Chris Jericho, his stature, you're doing the right thing. And yet, we don't see MJF on TV enough. And I get the fact that you want to put everybody on TV, you want to space everything out, get everybody a chance to be on TV, but we're now 3 months in. You still need to put your main guys front and center. Your main guys on the roster is Chris Jericho, is Jon Moxley. I will still say Kenny Omega, even though I'm not necessarily impressed with him, not necessarily in the ring, but more of the personality thing. Kenny Omega is kind of, for what I was told about who he was, being the best wrestler in the entire industry that nobody knows about, that's not in the WWE. Then I see him, and certainly in the ring, he's fantastic. But in terms of his actual persona, not interesting. In fact, I'll be honest with you, kind of corny. Gotta be honest with you, Kenny Omega's kind of corny. Your front, you need to get him back in the fold with the Young Bucks have been putting people over, which is fine. You don't want to bury talent. You want to put guys over, especially in the position to do so. But at the same time, you don't want to kill yourself either to people like me. But bottom line, MJF needs to be on TV more. MJF is outside Chris Jericho, your best heel. He gets a lot of heat from the crowd. In fact, MJF better be at the show I'm going to on the 15th of January, the Dynamite episode in Miami. He better be on that show. Because one reason I'm going is to see him. I don't even care if he doesn't wrestle. Let's get him on a mic. He's got to be on the mic. They got to put their best guys in front every week. You have 2-hour shows every week to do this. Okay, you can cut back some of the long ass matches you have there. Not every match has to go fucking 10 plus minutes. You know what I'm saying? You can throw a squash or 2 in there. Okay. Another thing that needs to work on is the women's division needs a lot of work. And of course now, I just saw the report yesterday that Riho's match, they're supposed to have a women's title match between Riho and Chris Statlander, this coming Wednesday, New Year's Day. That's been postponed due to scheduling conflicts, which I get, but, that's not good. Plus, Riho hasn't been on TV in a month and a half to almost 2 months, and she's a champion. I mean, she's being treated like she's getting treated like Brock Lesnar, even though she's not Brock Lesnar. So, women's division is a lot of work. There's some talent there. I said Chris Statlander's actually one who I think is really over. A couple of people there. I mean, I like Big Swole, although I hate the name. Change the name, of course. But there's potential in the women's division. Certainly nowhere close to what WWE has, but there's potential to at least make it manageable. Make it work. Some storylines make no sense either. Remember the last Dynamite, not last week, the week before, where you see Pac call out Kenny Omega, who's in the ring, and opens the dressing room door, and it's Omega's best friend who's looking the other way with headphones on, and he tells Kenny Omega that something about what want to threaten him, and then you see Pac close the door, which we assume he's going to attack him. Yet we see nothing of return to that storyline on that show after. That made no sense at all. Like, complete the storyline, especially when you know that the very next week you have a week off. Complete the storylines here. Complete the storylines. Also, they need a second mid-card belt now. They need a second belt now. You have the AEW Championship belt, obviously. You have the Tag Team Championship belts. You have, obviously, Women's title belt. That's it. And then you had the MGF winning that diamond ring thing, which is cool, but you need a belt. You need a second belt now. It's time. Because the belt actually puts more focus on other talent, too, as well. You know, it wouldn't hurt to have Pac has it being the mid-card belt. I suggested on the TikTok podcast that they should name it the AEW television title, because obviously that belt could be defended a lot on the AEW TV side of things, you know. So they need a second belt, you know, to lift talent, because they can't keep relying on Chris Jericho to push talent over. Especially now that Jericho's probably going overseas, I think in January in Japan to do some work. So they need a second belt, you know, available as soon as possible. And then the Dark Order. Like, I love the Dark Order's vignettes. They're really, really cool. But that whole storyline at the end of the match on the last episode of Dynamite, kind of stupid. They jumped all the wrestlers and made no sense. Very embarrassing. I want to care about the Dark Order. I really don't, though. Outside the storyline, the vignettes are really cool. But that's it. I don't really care. Don't really care. Like, the tag team division right now is actually... The tag team division actually is really, really good. Without the Dark Order even being involved. You know, you have, obviously, Private Party and Young Bucks and, you know, SCU and, you know, Santana, Ortiz. They got a lot of good talent, good personalities on that division that I'm not really necessarily worried about things there. But Dark Order, I mean, come on. I mean, the vignettes are cool. And I'm not against gimmicks and all that. That's cool, too, but I just don't care. I really don't care. And if I don't care, then I'm going to tune it out. So there's my opinion, of ways to fix the AEW for 2020, which you know, again, solid start to the start of the show. But I gotta be honest with you, NXT is right there with them. In terms of better wrestling shows, I'll still give AEW, you know, a lot of credit with what they're doing. But NXT is putting on some great shows right now, especially as of late. And I'm definitely investing in NXT, especially now going forward. So AEW has work to do, though. A lot of work to do in 2020. One thing I'm going to start really doing in 2020 is getting back to writing, getting back to blogging, getting back to expressing things across the board, and not just on the audio platform like this one. Because I love doing podcasting, obviously. I love podcasting. I love being able to speak on things that matter to me, not just sports, but also, you know, life, parenting, lifestyles, politics, pop culture, whatever it may be. But a lot of that too, also, I feel like I'm even more effective in that way when I'm doing it on a computer or writing, you know, pen. I don't really use a pen anymore, obviously, when it comes to writing anything, but you know what I mean. I've always said for years that while radio and podcasting and TV and videos and whatnot, digital is always the most fun medium to do, writing to me was always the most satisfying, because writing takes a lot of work. Writing is basically you being one with yourself. Basically you having to sit there within yourself and think about what you have to say before you put it out there. And I've always enjoyed writing. The problem with me these days of writing is I don't have any time for that. Like, I have more time to do a podcast like this for 30, 40 minutes, just shoot the shit and get out. Whereas writing takes a lot more delicate time. And it's also a mental fuck. It's definitely something you have to be in the mindset of doing. And, this year is the first time, probably in a long time, I really didn't write much. I certainly wrote here and there, but for example, I went, prior to the piece I wrote last week on Kevin Garnett, I hadn't written a piece on my blog in about 3 months. If not longer. So it's one of those things where, like, I get back to, okay, you know, ever since I stopped writing with other publications, you know, I used to write for Miami Heat blog for a little while. I wrote a couple of blogs through the years, and ultimately I decided to just kind of keep things at home, because number one, I didn't have time to do a little blogs, number one. Number two, there's a lot more I want to write into sports. But getting the time to do that has always been the challenge for me. So 2020, I'm not big on resolutions necessarily. I'm more of a goal-oriented guy. But my biggest goal for me personally here, outside of everything else, health and all that stuff that we always say every year. One of my goals is to get back to writing on a regular basis. Now, I'm not going to say I'm going to write every damn day. I can't do that. It's impossible. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I don't have time to do every day. But I can at least, create some time, to do so, once a week, twice a week, talk about things I'm passionate about, and I know the media, today's media doesn't really put value in writing like it used to. You've seen a lot of places that used to value writing no longer doing it. NTV News, Fox Sports, a lot of places just stop writing. They just stop. The written word doesn't matter to them anymore because video's faster, podcast is easier, and I get all that. But there's still some value to writing. So to me, there is still so much value to just sitting there whether it's on your phone, your Kindle, a book, whatever it be, a magazine, and just sitting there. The world stopped for a while and just reading words and writing also too, and just kind of delving in that world. Put on music in the background, maybe too. Have a cup of coffee, maybe a cup of whiskey. I don't know. Whatever writers do to keep themselves sane as they're going through the process of jotting out 2,000 words, columns or blogs. The value of that still exists in my opinion, and I'm hoping to get somewhat back to that at some point in 2020. So my goal in 2020 is to continue writing and trying to write on a regular basis. So a few weeks ago, I was listening to Bill Simmons' podcast. He had on my favorite guest of all his favorite guests. All his guests, he's had my favorite one is Chuck Klosterman. He's on there once every maybe 2-3 months. He talks pop culture. That's why I like Klosterman. He's not just in the rabbit hole guy with like sports only or this only. He's actually all over the place. He'll talk streaming. He'll talk pop culture, sports, history, you name it. So they were talking about the fact that Hillary Clinton, and I missed this too. Hillary Clinton was actually on Howard Stern a few weeks ago, which normally I wouldn't give a shit about because I'm not really a Hillary Clinton, fan or supporter. I did vote for her in 2016 because I felt like I had to, but it was kind of like me curling my mouth doing it just to get out of the way. But I was listening to Chuck Klosterman and Simmons on the podcast talk about the conversation they had. It wasn't just some random 10-minute spot. Hillary Clinton spent 2.5 hours talking, basically like a long form podcast, basically like she's like on Joe Rogan or something. And because I respect Klosterman, especially Klosterman's opinions on things and his perspective, it intrigued me, And I've heard other people talk about it too, even after that podcast, even after the Simmons podcast, Klosterman Simmons podcast, mention Hillary Clinton's appearance on Howard Stern. Don't know why I'm pausing a lot today. It's weird. I haven't podcasted over a week. That's probably why. So I heard other whispers about it too, and so I decided to take a stab at it. Because I think a buddy of mine had said, actually Matt McQueenie on this podcast had mentioned that he had saw it too, and he was really impressed. And so I decided to, what, screw it. I got a couple hours myself. The kids are relaxing. Whatever. Let me just go ahead and throw on YouTube and watch it. It was a 5-part interview, split with 3 minutes each. And I got to tell you, I was really impressed. I don't really care for Hillary Clinton. I never found her authentic, really, at any point in my life. And yet, on this platform, I never seen her or sound as authentic as she did, especially 2.5 hours. She was really, really open. And it makes you wonder, why doesn't she normally do this? Why didn't she sort this side of herself in 2016 during the campaign? Why did she sound so robotic? She was not robotic here. I don't care if you don't like Hillary Clinton. You cannot, without fail, say she did not sound human in this interview. All opinions aside about her and her family and whether or not you're a Democrat or Republican, you cannot say that she didn't sound human in this interview. Her backstory about her mom was very touching, and about how she learned from her mom, growing up and whatnot. We learned the fact that she's a big Beatles fan, loved the Rolling Stones, hung out with Keith Richards. She has some cool stories about Keith Richards in the White House, all that. It's, and I'm almost, it's weird here for me because I'm almost wondering, like, should I be giving Howard Stern more credit for this? Because Howard Stern, never been a huge fan of his particularly, but his work is tremendous. And he knows how to get interesting content out of his guests. Like, one of the things about Joe Rogan, Joe Rogan is really, really good at what he does, but he isn't original necessarily. Howard Stern was doing this for years. Howard Stern is a great radio guy. And he's great with conversations. He knows how to get out of people, that people tend to hold back with Howard Stern, and he knows that, and he'll try to get out, get more out, and he gets it out. It was, I feel weird saying this, but I don't know if I should give Howard Stern more credit for this or Hillary Clinton. But she was very authentic, honest, transparent, and didn't pull any punches. Is it because the fact that she's no longer campaigning, no longer involved in day-to-day political, atmosphere, no longer doing, no longer a senator, she's not involved in Washington anymore? Is that the reason why maybe she's a little more loose? She's now home, as a grandmother, taking care of grandkids and, all that. Is that the reason why? I don't know. It was just really, really cool to see that. Really cool to hear Hillary Clinton actually sound like a human being. And again, I wish she had shown this on herself in 2016. I'm not saying she had to go over the top and do it, but at least, show, sort of like you're human. See, that's the thing people forget about Donald Trump. And I'm not even saying Donald Trump is necessarily that, what he says is the truth, whatever. But Donald Trump, the reason Donald Trump won the election in 2016, this is a rich guy, a billionaire, somehow able to make himself relatable to people like you and me, people who are, middle class folks. Whether or not you agree it's a con or not, he still sold himself in that way. Hillary Clinton did not do that. Hillary Clinton came up as very stuck up, so out of in her own little bubble, elitism, all that. But Donald Trump, who is that person, did not. And that's why he won the election. Let's say you want about Russia and all that stuff, and that probably played a factor as well too, but this election had been close. Hillary Clinton was the better candidate. There's no question about that. Is the most overqualified candidate for president probably since George H.W. Bush. And yet she lost to a guy who had zero political background, who's been let's just say a pretty up and down businessman for his career. But I'll give the devil devil's due. Donald Trump is a great brander. He's a phenomenal brander. You can't knock that. And that's why I think ultimately the reason why this election ended the way it did was because Donald Trump came off more authentic than Hillary Clinton. Just that simple. And no one could debate that. You could be a Democrat who loved Hillary Clinton. You can't argue that fact. And that matters when you're running for president. It matters. And I'm watching this interview with Stern, and I'm like, why didn't I see this in 2016? Make me excited about you. Why should I vote for you? You know what I'm saying? So, again, it was something that I liked watching. It was really cool watching. Also, yesterday I caught and I'm not even a fan of this guy, Donald Trump Jr. In fact, I would say I would probably dislike him even more than the president himself. But I listened to this podcast he did with Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho has his own podcast. He talks about wrestling, music, and anything. I love that. I love diversity, and I love the fact that Chris Jericho had to like put like a disclaimer saying, this is controversial. Dude, do what you want, bro. I'm tired of people trying to silence other folks. If you want to talk politics on your podcast, so fucking be it. Do it. He had Don Jr. on his podcast. Not a Don Jr. fan at all. Comes off very arrogant, very cocky, very, just kind of like somebody I would never want to be associated with. Okay? And yet, Don Jr., I gotta be honest with you, I was kind of impressed with the interview. Very very transparent, very honest. Do I believe him? Half the shit he's saying? Not really, but I like honesty and authenticity. And that's the thing. You got to sell that. You got to sell that. And I'm a middle road guy. You know, I'm not even a Democrat. I'm not even a Republican. I'm an MPA. I'm a former Republican who left the party in 2007, 2008. So again, I'm the horse in the race. But ultimately, no matter how qualified you are for a job, you need to sell yourself as authentic. Hillary Clinton did not do that. She did this 3 years too late on Howard Stern, which is pathetic. But at the same time, at least she did so at some point. So I don't know. I left the interview, feeling, a bit impressed and equally impressed, equally disappointed with Hillary Clinton. Shit, But again, I don't know. Maybe it's the environment now. I don't know. Yeah. All right, before I go, this is my son Eli coming on the show. His once a year appearance on the podcast, on Earnestly podcast. As we talk about Christmas and everything else he's passionate about right now. We had a good time talking about stuff. So enjoy this part of the podcast, and here we go. Okay, here I'm now joined by my son Eli, my 6-year-old son, who I believe had a good Christmas this year. Eli, welcome to the podcast. What's up?
Hey.
Hey.
Hey guys, welcome to Earnest Speaking Podcast.
Oh yeah.
And right now I think we're going to talk about
Christmas. No, I just want to ask a couple questions before I go. It's just a couple minutes on the pod. I want to ask you, how was your Christmas this year? Did you like Christmas this year?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. What did you like about Christmas this year? What was cool about Christmas this year?
Going to Chrissy's house.
Auntie Chrissy? Okay, what else? Well, you didn't go to her house yet. Went to Auntie Anne's house, actually.
I liked my watch.
Like your watch? You got a watch for Christmas this year?
Mm-hmm.
Did you like your gifts?
You didn't give me the ones I wanted. So
What didn't you get this year that you wanted?
nothing.
What do you mean nothing? You just said you didn't get what you wanted, so I'm asking you a question. What did you want? What did you want this year?
The Batman, the Batmobile with Imaginext.
Oh, okay. Now, Logan, your younger brother Logan got a Batmobile, which we told you not to sit on because it's for babies, not for you. You're 6, he's 2.
I wanted Star Wars Imaginext, Marvel Imaginext, Sonic the Hedgehog toys, Super Mario toys.
I know you wanted I know one thing you wanted. You kept asking for, which maybe for your birthday you'll get it if you're good. You kept asking for Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, because it's so cool and I love it. Because Logan, we can play on it together. But Logan's not gonna play on the Nintendo Switch.
Well, it'll be yours, obviously. He's too young for that stuff.
Yeah. You had to be 7 years old to get it.
And how old are you now?
6, and Nintendo Switch is also for when you're almost 7.
Yeah. Oh wait, so it's 7, but it's good for almost 7 because you're almost 7, right?
Yeah.
At least you don't BS people about that. That's cool. So there's a new year coming in a few days, 2020. Do you have any resolutions, any goals for 2020?
Wait, is that in January?
Yeah, it's in January. It's in 3 days. Do
You
you have any goals? What do you want to accomplish next year in 2020?
What's that?
What do you want to do next year? What do you want to do that's big in 2020? What does 6-year-old Eli, turning 7 in April, want to do in 2020?
Maybe
Disney World?
Yeah.
Disney World? What else do you want to do this year?
Make a volcano.
A volcano? Make one? How do you make a volcano?
Oh, I learned in school.
Oh, really? Interesting. What else do you want to do this year?
Get a double blade lightsaber at Disney World. go to a new Star Wars ride. Want to go to Star Wars Land and Marvel Land.
Ooh, okay.
And the last one, I want to go to Legoland.
Okay. Sounds like doable things to happen in 2020. So, and you want to do it with your mommy and daddy and brother?
Actually, not a volcano, just 4 things. Go Disney, actually 5 things. Go Disney World, get over lightsaber, go Star Wars Land, Marvel Land, and go to Legoland.
Okay, and all that next year. All that in 2020, right? Yeah, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else we go? We'll sign off.
There's one more thing I want to talk about.
What's about?
It's a game called Street Fighter, and I want to talk about a little bit of that.
Okay, go ahead.
So
Tell the kind folks here who probably don't know what the hell you're talking about. Well, Street Fighter is pretty popular when I was a kid.
So in the show called in YouTube show called Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat. It's really similar. So, by the way, you might see a new guy what Ryu turns to, and you know who it is, right? His name is called Evil Ryu. So, by the way, Ryu dies in there. Then Akuma comes in there to defeat Shao Kahn, and so you guys know Akuma, right? Akuma is one of the my favorites. He's so powerful. I'll show you some moves I know, some 3 moves I know from Ryu from Street Fighter. The first one that I want to show you is Hadouken. So Hadouken is a blue thing, but it can kill from don't know yet.
It's funny how like when we did the interview earlier with Eli, he was like he was a lot calmer. The minute you start talking about Street Fighter and something that he wants to talk about, that he's passionate about, the decibels goes way higher. Eli, you're funny as heck.
The next one I want to talk about is a Saruken. So like a hot.
We have to go now. We have to go. We have bills to pay here. So tell everybody bye. Tell everybody Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, guys.
Happy Hanukkah. We do Hanukkah too. Well, we do Hanukkah here. Remember, you're half Jewish. Your mommy's
today's
Jewish.
not Hanukkah, but
No, today's still Hanukkah. It's day 7. Hanukkah's 8 days. This is day 7. Okay.
Really?
So that would do it.
Wait, I want to talk about one more thing.
Okay, we'll do it in the next segment. I promise. Okay. So tell bye. Tell bye.
Bye.
Okay, now we'll do it. See you guys in 2020. Love you guys. Take care. And stay up. Stay positive. See you in 2020. Say it again.
Stay in 2020.